the gracious, the merciful. Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you all. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to start by thanking the Sutton Holocaust Memorial Day organizers for commemorating this day and for the kind invitation to address you when we remember and pray for the countless innocent souls, our brothers and sisters in humanity who were so brutally murdered during the Second World War. Such commemorations are vital because unless we strive to remember the past wrongs, we are doomed to repeat them. Inviting the Ahmadiyya Muslim community to this event, particularly in the current negative climate surrounding Muslims, it demonstrates the peace-loving nature of the organizers. Such leadership in these tumultuous times is much needed, so thank you. The financial crisis has severely impacted whole communities, and the resulting inability to find justice or meaningful solutions has spread discontent among people everywhere. This has developed negative nationalistic attitudes and a harmful kind of rebellion against the political order. A dangerous byproduct has been the scapegoating and ill treatment of foreigners, minorities, and refugees across the world. These are difficult times, reminiscent of the demagogues of old who used the hostility of hatred and the tools of technology to cause great pain, destruction, and sometimes death of the innocent. Today, we are talking about how can life go on, and particularly since the end of World War II, the world has made efforts to end genocide. Unfortunately, the hard lessons of the Holocaust have not been learned, which is evidenced by such atrocities in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia, and Darfur. But seldom would you have heard the Islamic view on how to counter the hate between communities, which is the root of violence. When properly understood and implemented, Islam brings about peace by nurturing communities in which people of all religious beliefs are respected and protected. This may sound odd to some, particularly because throughout history, Islamic teachings have been misused for vested interests. An example today is that of Daesh, who rape, plunder, and commit horrific genocide in various communities. This is a cause of deep regret and sorrow for many Muslims because the message of peace that Islam brings is obscured by the screams of innocent people being harmed quite wrongly in its name. So today, I will be highlighting the principles found in the Holy Quran that can assist, help, and encourage reconciliation with those who may have wronged us. I will also present examples from history and the recent past to illustrate the power behind that methodology. Chapter 41, verse 34 gives the first three principles for reconciliation. The Holy Quran says, "And who is better in speech than he who invites men to God and does good works, and says, I am surely of those who submit." The first point is about calling people to the teachings of God, the teachings of goodness, morality, and human values. It calls on advocates for peace to go out and invite others towards love, reconciliation, and hope. The second point says that in addition to calling people to goodness, we must also practice what we preach. This is essential for building integrity and trust, particularly with those who may be suspicious of our intentions. The third point tells us to continually remember our objective. For Muslims, it's about staying committed to the religion Islam, which literally means peace, security, and harmony. These are noble objectives which are shared by every advocate for peace. So the first three principles tell us that in order to counter hate, we must actively call people towards peace and human values, we must practice what we preach, and stay focused on our objectives. The next verse further expands this beautiful guidance by explaining how to deal with others who behave in a hateful way. The Holy Quran says, "And good and evil are not alike. Repel evil with that which is best. And lo, he between whom and thyself was enmity will become as though he were a warm friend." The Holy Quran tells us that goodness will always trump evil. So despite any mistreatment we may suffer, we should try to recognize that even those who commit injustices can be deserving of kindness and we should try to act with humanity and benevolence towards them in return. This is essential for removing enmity. The Quran does, however, recognize that it is no easy task to effectively counter hate. It therefore sets some conditions. It says, "But none is granted it save those who are steadfast, and none is granted it save those who possess a large share of good." So if we genuinely want reconciliation, to bring peace to our society, we must steadfastly adhere to the principles laid out, and we must demonstrate goodness in all aspects of our lives, not just where it suits us, and not just towards our own people. You may have also noticed that the Holy Quran has placed this responsibility in our hands, or in the hands of those who want peace and not others. The Caliph and leader of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, has often said that as per Islam, the golden principle for unlocking the door to true peace and security is by fulfilling the rights and interests of others. The question now arises, has this ever worked? Let me show you from the pages of history. Some of you will know that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, claimed to be God's appointee. 13 years of intense persecution followed, against which Islam forbade retaliation. Muhammad, peace be upon him, lost his beloved wife and many friends. So when he returned triumphant to Mecca with 10,000 followers, the opportunity for revenge was available, but instead he proclaimed, "By God, you will have no punishment today and no blame." But more remarkable was Muhammad's mercy for those who brutally killed his much-loved uncle and pregnant daughter. This spirit of forgiveness converted the most stone-hearted adversaries into his closest devotees. This is a real example of how repelling evil acts and temptations with goodness turned adversaries into friends. Some might regard this as a fabled history, which has no place in the modern world. In fact, such examples are prevalent even today. Let me present you with the case of Ted Haakey. On the night of the Paris atrocities in November 2015, a former Marine of the US Army, while under the influence of a lot of negative news, social media and drink, opened fire upon our mosque in the US. Luckily, no one was hurt and he was arrested. Later, an opportunity arose for the two parties to meet. Our mosque's management extended a hand of friendship and invited Ted back to the mosque. Ted and his wife met the community. They talked, they forgave, and embraced. They became warm friends. Or you may look at the case of Daryl Davis, a black jazz musician who adopted similar principles. He sought out members of the KKK and simply asked them, "How can you hate me when you don't even know me?" Years of efforts have resulted in hundreds of friendships, and some even left the KKK as a result. These examples demonstrate that steadfast adherence towards peace, reconciliation, and love can remove the most intense hatred. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community, under the guidance of its founder, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, peace be upon him, who claimed to be the Messiah of the age, is working tirelessly to re-establish the Islamic principles of humanity and harmony. The men, women, and children of this community have become advocates for peace. Our members are donating blood, planting trees, visiting the elderly, donating gifts to children's hospitals, selling poppies, give food to the homeless, raising hundreds of thousands of pounds for charities every year, and much more. We are not seeking any praise or recognition, as we are merely following what our religion has taught us, but we are only a small group. Many political analysts agree that the world is on the precipice of a catastrophic war. It seems that the world is already at war, and I'm sure we all know that genocide is often its byproduct. With the intense hatred being spewed by the media against a variety of groups, alongside the rise of the far right across the world, all communities must take control of the narrative and our future, so that we ensure a peaceful world for our children and their children to come. It is the urgent need of the time that we all promote and work for peace. And in the words of our Caliph, let us all unite against the forces of evil that seek to divide mankind, and let us unify in the name of peace and harmony. So if anyone asks, is it possible to reconcile communities that harbor enmity for each other? I hope we all agree that provided those who want peace work for it, then yes, they can.